How's it going, my Comic Chat Army? We're here today with Steph Canon and Matt Knowles, the creators of Tales of Nocturnia. How y'all doing?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
How's it going? So, was Tales of Nocturnia y'all's first book together?
Well, let's see. There, you could technically say yes, but in realism, no. Tales from Nocturnia was the first one where we said we are going to co-create this thing together as co-writers. We had done some short one-pagers and some other scripts before that, and we had already been doing Heirs of Isildur as a team prior to that. And because of us working on Heirs of Isildur together, that's where Tales from Nocturnia kind of spun off from. There was there's not even kind of, it legitimately did. We were working on a part for Heirs of Isildur issue 6, and the artist did a panel that kind of flashed into the Tales from Nocturnia world. And the way he drew it was something that really caught our eyes. And we kept on going back to that. I wonder what's going on in that executioner's head. Man, we'd like to explore that. Next thing you know, Tales from Nocturnia.
But technically, Heirs, I was serving as more of an editor and story consultant because Matt had already created the story, essentially, by the time I came into the picture. So, yes, technically, Tales from Nocturnia is our first co-written creation together, but we've been working together in other capacities before that.
Yes.
Nice. And what book do y'all have on Kickstarter right now?
So right now, we've actually got a dual Kickstarter. We've got Heirs of Isildur versus Tales from Nocturnia. It's an album, so it's the second album. It's going to be available as MP3, CD, and then 2 different splatter vinyls. So we're going to have a neon orange with green splatter vinyl, and the other one is red, blue, and black, like a galaxy print. So we have the album, but the album is also going to come with the Heirs of Isildur Nightmare Scenario comic. So the comic continues on from where the Crossroads Conundrum, the first arc, ended. It's a one-shot that explains some things that would happen post the Crossroads Conundrum. But it is a one-shot. So if somebody's never read Heirs before, they're like, dude, I don't even know what that is, they could read it and they would still be able to get a good, fun little story. One of the fun things we're doing with that comic is we're calling it a special edition because it's got the Nightmare Scenario chapter. It's also going to have all the lyrics to the album in there. So there's going to be 1 page per song where you've got all the, like a song lyrics, and it'll say what the explanation is of it and then what part of the story it fits into. If it's a Heirs of Isildur song, where it in the story. If it's a Tales from Nocturnia song, of which there are 5, where those things fit in, and kind of take it from there.
Yeah, we like to say it's the Nightmare Scenario story itself is kind of a bridge in between 2 different story arcs. The Crossroads Conundrum being the first, and Perilous Prospects is going to be the next one. But we wanted to start Perilous Prospects kind of right off without having to go into a lot of explanation as to what was the fate of our main character, Michael Isildur. So this is kind of serving as a little supplemental thing that we can put in addition to the album, so that we're not just doing an album Kickstarter. That way we can appeal to both music and comic fans.
Wow, I think this is the first time. Is this the first time this has been done? I know it's the first time I've heard of it.
As far as we know, this is the first time it's been done to this extent. Yeah. There are some other entities such as September Morning, where September Morning is actually a live band, and the front woman, Emily, for that band actually dresses as the character September from their comic. And so they have a comic that they put out, I think 2 issues or 3 issues of, that go along with their albums. But the way that we do it is very much unique in its own way, yes.
Who did the music? Did y'all do the music also?
So I do the mastermind behind the music, the majority of the writing, and the vocals. On this album, Steph came in and did some, she helped me with some of the lyrics, so she's going to get some lyric writing credit on a couple of the songs. She was able to get herself, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got my mic back here. She was able to stand herself up in front of the mic and take out some aggression on the microphone on a couple of spots.
Very therapeutic.
But then on this album, we luckily were able to get Corey Steger back in, who was the main musician with me on the first album, on the Crossroads Conundrum. I did about 95% of the music, but he did guitar solos or vocals on parts of every song. We just recorded with him on March 6th, and unfortunately on March 17th, he had his life taken in an unfortunate car accident. He got run into at full speed. He was just minding his own business, stopped at a light, and somebody ran into him. So we were able to get him in, and he has parts on 5 songs on this album. And so it's kind of changed up what we wanted to do on this campaign, because there's a lot of tribute things we're doing for him. We took some of the cover options that we had out because we felt they weren't going to be appropriate with the scenario we were having to deal with him and his passing. But it's given us a little bit different, a different perspective, and given us, we were already 100% on for this, but now feeling like we have a little more purpose on it as well that has been added in. Purpose we didn't ask for, but we're more than happy to take on.
There's some other musicians working on the album as well.
Yes.
We have Andrew Polo, who is doing violins. He's a very talented violinist, awesome guy. So he's on
2 songs. The first single that we've already released, The Perilous Prospects of Shadow's Haven, that's on the campaign page, and it's on the YouTube channel, and has also been reviewed by Jason Yoface, who is a YouTube influencer, is out there as well. We have Zach Leeser, who is an incredible tech metal guitarist. We've got Kyle Weston and Brian Eckerman, who are both on the production side, helping with the mixing and mastering, but who are also both guitar players who both got to cut a guitar solo. And then we've also got, who are we leaving out besides Fabio Grimdrap?
I was going to say.
Fabio Grimdrap from the band Trollfest. They are a Baltic metal band from Norway. Just got Fabio to cut back a solo for us. That is incredible. Is that everybody?
Rick.
Oh, Corey's friend Rick, who was down, who actually was with Corey the last time he was here, got to cut some vocal tracks back on one of the songs. And he actually performs in the same exact spot, which is the last spot that Corey ever recorded his entire life. So it had a really cool meaning right there. We were really happy about that.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So how long have y'all been doing comic books?
I'll let you start.
Before we met, I have kind of been doing it since about 2017. I always wanted to be a writer and realized that some of the stories I had in my head I wanted to do in comic form. It took about 6 months to learn how to write comics, how to do comic scripts. And before I met Matt, I had done a couple of short comics. I did a one-pager that was finalist in the Ghost City Comics competition online. But yeah, I've been doing it since 2017. Matt and I met in 2018 and started in Symmetry Creations shortly after, really.
Yeah, we actually started by name very shortly after.
Yeah, but for Matt, I'll let him.
Yeah, I was a metal musician for quite a long time, and I got burnt out on the industry and burnt out on just, the creative process, the way that it manifested in the music world was just something that I was burnt out on. But I always wanted to be a creator, and after about 8 years, I'm like, hey, I want to write some more music, but I want there to be more to it. And a little bit of music and some backstory turned into a lot more music, and a lot more backstory turned into a full album and an ebook. That ebook kind of turned into an illustrated novel. And then when Steph and I met, that illustrated novel that what I was working on, she put her hands into and was like, hey, if you really want to do this as a comic, then you need to actually do it as a comic.
Got to look like
a comic. So when we got to the end of the 11-issue arc for Heirs, we went back and took 2.5 months to re-letter, reformat, and get everything redone for the trade paperback, which is 268 pages that, in a lot of ways, is almost like unique content. If you go back and look at like Heirs 1, 2, or 3, the way that it's formatted in the single issues compared to what's in the trade, it's almost like you're getting a retelling of the story.
Okay. Do y'all have a website that people can get some of y'all stuff, or you directing people to the Kickstarter?
Well, I would say the first thing we want to do is kind of, have people put their eyes to the Kickstarter, which is at tinyearl.com. Then it's /heirs, HEIRS, versus VS TFN. So Heirs versus Nocturnia, Heirs versus TFN. We'll make sure we have that link for you so you can put it in the comments. Yeah. You can get everything from this campaign, but we also make sure that if somebody wants other items, we put tiers out there. Like we have a couple tiers. We have a tiers that says, let's get medieval. We have a let's get steamy. So, like, if you want the things from this campaign that are medieval based, but then also things we've done previously, like books you've seen at your place of employment, where you're talking about, the Tales from Nocturnia books, you have options to pick those up. If you want things that are more steampunk based in our inventory, you can get the new things plus those as well. We even have options if somebody wants to get the leather things that we have had made for us previously. We try to make sure during our campaigns everything is there. But if people want to go to our regular website, we're not going to stop them, which is just insymmetrycreations.com. Again, we can shoot you the links or shoot you that in text. That way you can copy it over. And we do have a store that's linked there as well for when in our non-Kickstarter times.
Yeah. You're going to get a better deal if you go to the Kickstarter the next month or so.
Yes, that's right. You're going to get a better deal if you go to the Kickstarter for the next month. That's darn sure.
So if they put in the album and read the book, does it go hand in hand?
Well, let you take that one.
So they're actually, for the most part, they're separate entities, even though they're in our same IPs, same worlds, essentially. But one of the cool things that we're doing is with the Nightmare Scenario comic is we're having all of the lyrics to all of the songs on the album inside the included in the comic. So instead of getting, a little leaflet or not even that and not knowing what the lyrics are, because with metal music, sometimes it's hard to tell what the lyrics are.
What you talking about, Willis? You always understand metal music.
But the other thing that we're doing is we're diving a little bit deeper in. So we're giving explanations to the songs, what the inspiration was, and kind of what the songs are about, because, metal music can be really metaphorical sometimes. But there is, with the album, there's 10 songs, 5 are dedicated to Heirs of Isildur, and 5 are dedicated to Tales from Nocturnia. But that doesn't mean that if you're a fan of Nocturnia and you read Nightmare Scenario, you're still going to be able to enjoy it.
Feel like it gets a little medieval, yeah.
Yes.
So with the first album, with the Crossroads Conundrum, with that one, all the songs were related to Heirs of Isildur. So there's spots in there where it may say, if you want to know more backstory of this character, go listen to this song. That was the way that the first album was constructed. Kind of like how if you look at the Star Wars universe, you have, the universe here, but then you have some movies that'll connect in from the side, like Rogue One, that'll give you, and Solo, that give you kind of like a side story that you don't need for the full linear storyline. That's kind of what we did with the first album, where the storyline we said was a vertical line, and then the songs all intersected at horizontal points. For this album, for Heirs versus Nocturnia, there's some songs that are more like summaries of certain sections, because Heirs gets pretty deep, and we wanted to make sure that there was some music that summarized certain sections. And there's some sections we couldn't put a song on the first album about because it would have been too big of a spoiler, so we're able to put those songs now. The Nocturnia songs, with the 5 that are there, if you've read the Nocturnia story, there will be some spots where you'll see the lyrics to the song, and you'll say, oh, well, okay, this song is said from this character's perspective, and it'll give you a little bit more of an understanding when you read the story again as to what that character's motivation may have been. It may be a little bit different insight into that character that you may not have realized in the first place.
All right. Can people request Charles' books at their local comic shop?
Well, right now, there's a few comic stores that pick them up, but as you know, in indies, it's very difficult to get an indie book into local stores and have it be something that's going to work well financially for us as the creators and for the store, because stores are in money to make business, or in business to make money, and they need to make more than 15 cents on an issue, just like we do. So there are some that, like the Collective in Orlando, Kingdom of Comics in Melbourne,
Bearded Brown Coat
in Ocala. Most of the time, though, you're going to want to come to us. That being said, we can't really say much about it right now. We do have a little thing that's going to be on a publisher that is a totally different kind of story for us.
Very, very different than
very different, but you might be able to go and pick that up at comic book stores across the country.
Possibly.
When that comes out and that's announced. But we do have a little thing that we're working on that's going to be very, very different from everything else we've done. But once that is able to be announced and once that is actually out, you will be able to go into your local comic shop and pick up something that we have done.
Yes.
All right. Well, where do you want people to follow you for the announcement?
I would say that the best place to follow us is on our Instagram page. You can go to In Symmetry Creations on Instagram. You can go to /InSym, INSYM on Facebook. You can go to @InSym Creations on Twitter. And then obviously on our regular social medias, which is at Dr. Anguish and at Steph Canon Writes.
Steph Canon Writes, yes.
And our website, yeah.
We do have an email list as well. So if somebody's interested in being on that, we don't spam people. We don't, when we're running a Kickstarter campaign, obviously there's going to be more emails sent out. But we try to just send people emails when we have things to announce or
Correct.
news to announce instead of just, hey, Matt and I wrote today type of thing. So if we were doing that, it'd be every day.
All right. So I guess what advice would you give to new writers? Goodness, new writers out there that want to get started.
Wow, there's so many ways you could answer that. I would say learn. And when I say that, I mean there is so much to learn. Don't be afraid of learning. Don't be afraid of feeling like you know nothing and looking to people to gain the knowledge that you want to gain. And what I mean by that is when we started off, we can look at our Kickstarter journey. When we first were preparing for our first Kickstarter, we took about 6 months to prepare for it. We were talking to a lot of our friends that had done really successful things on Kickstarter, and they were more than happy to share with us what they did. And without their knowledge and without their input, we wouldn't have had a clue what we were doing. We had an incredible day one for this campaign right now. We actually, on day one, did better than our entire first campaign did for the entire campaign. Wow. So that doesn't mean that we are blowing us out of the water or anything like that. I mean, we still have a long way to go in this campaign. But we looked back and we're like, wow, what we just did on day one was just like what these people we talked to for 6 months before our first campaign, that's what they were doing then. And now we're kind of in that position while they're doing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on their campaign. We've kind of leveled up to where they were. They've gone to another level. So we feel like we're more than happy to talk to other creators that want to get into the business and share with them what we know. I know that's kind of a general statement. Don't be afraid to learn. Don't think that you have to set your sights so high. I'm going to come in and I'm going to change up everything and I'm going to show people how it's done. No, you're probably not. Come in, be humble, and try to endear yourself to the other creators and the rest of the community by being a part of the community, not coming in thinking you're better than it. And I know I've talked a lot, and I'm sure you got some stuff you would say too. So what would you say?
My advice that I always give to writers equates back to running. For those that don't know, I'm a long distance runner. I run an insane amount of mileage every.
Like over 1,000 miles a year?
Yeah. So
wow.
Two of the things that they say in running a lot, I equate to with writing, which is, first of all, it's a marathon, not a sprint. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Nobody's going to go right out the gate in any kind of content creation whatsoever, unless you are incredibly lucky. But those are the stories that you hear 0.001% of the time. Most people have to work a really long time to get to where they want to be. And then once they get there, they're going to want to get to the next play, kind of like what Matt was saying. But it's going to take a little while. Be patient and enjoy the process, because one day you're going to look back and go, wow, look how far I've come. There's not a lot of satisfaction from going right out the gate and going, okay, I've already hit the pinnacle. Now what?
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, that sounds nice, but you're not really going to be very happy or fulfilled as a creator unless you have seen growth. The other thing I say is be comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's not always going to be easy, and there are going to be times when you're going to get into situations that are uncomfortable, whether it's a bad review or somebody doesn't like what you do, or they insult your work, or they are just kind of a jerk to you, or you have a bad experience at a show. It's going to happen, and that's not to be negative, because the positives outweigh the negatives big time. Yeah. But there's just going to be moments where the process is going to be uncomfortable. The process is going to you're going to have to go through some growing pains and learn. And sometimes, like Matt said, you have to be humble. There are going to be times that you're going to learn something and go, I shouldn't have done it that way, or I shouldn't have approached it this way. And you have to learn from that and grow. And it's okay. You have to be comfortable with that discomfort that comes in learning and growing.
The last thing I would say is understand what your definition of the word success is, and don't let anyone deter you from what your definition is. Because you have three of us on this podcast right now, and I'm sure that Cody, if you wanted to write, you would say, hey, man, I want to write, and I want to be able to accomplish this. Your definition of success may be, I just want to be able to put out an issue. That may be what your top level. You may not want to do anything more than that. If that's all you want to do is, hey, I want to be able to complete an issue, that's fine. Don't let somebody come by and say, man, you're not really a creator unless you have a series, unless you're on Marvel. That's not your definition. There are some people, their definition is, I want to have 1 million followers on social media. There are some that say, I want to be able to, do it as a full-time job financially. All those things may work together. All those things may not work together. Some people may say, I want to be getting guest spots at cons, and I want to have all my expenses paid. If those are your goals, let that be your goal, and don't let somebody else's goal. Cody may say, well, you should just worry about writing an issue. Who cares about the money? Well, if that's what you want to do is make money from it, work towards it. But also don't be afraid to modify what your definition of success is over time. What you think your definition is right now might change in a year, and that's okay. What we wanted as a creative team when we first started working together, without getting into too many details, we actually got the thing that we wanted right off the bat, and then realized that thing we wanted wasn't really what we thought it was going to be, and it completely changed up what our desires and what our goals were, because we're like, you know what, maybe that thing that we thought was that brass ring that was out there really wasn't that good. And so it really made us change up what we wanted, and it's okay to change, and it's okay to modify as time goes on.
All right. Thank you, Matt and Steph, for coming on to talk with us. Is there one last thing you want to say to the people before we go?
I think because this is relative, we've got a Kickstarter going on right now, so I think that we would be remiss to not talk about that. To end the show, we're just really blown away by the support that we've seen so far, and it's only been, at the time of this recording, 3 days. We have surpassed. I mean, we did better the first few days than we did in our first campaign completely. So we're just blown away and honored by the support that we've had, but we've got a long way to go. Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
And like you said about the campaign, we do have a lot of tribute things up there to Corey, who passed away right before we released the campaign. We do have a cover that we're going to be releasing very soon that we removed a bunch of covers, but we actually added one in just for him called Tribute. And the sale of those covers, we're going to take a portion. So it's going to be a limited run. So it's a limited, limited run pricing and things like that. But we're going to take a portion of the sales from each one of those things and put them into a fund for Corey's kids. He had a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old at the time of his passing. And so we're going to be giving them the amount of the money doesn't matter as much, because, whatever it is, it's not going to be like life-changing, world-changing. It's the concept of, here are these people that you may not even know that did something to contribute back to you, and we're actually going to take a card and handwrite everyone's name that buys one of those issues, and handwrite every one of their names in the card to be able to present to the family as well. So if you are on the fence about whether you're into steampunk, time travel, medieval, fantasy, metal music, splatter vinyl, any of that, just know there is another reason to potentially consider backing the campaign, which is to help support a family that is having some serious struggles right now because of the grieving process over losing the father and husband and son and brother in their family.
All right. Well, thank y'all.
All right. Thanks a lot, Cody. Thanks for having us on, man.
Thank you.